How the hell do we all make money while we do this? What's up, valued viewer? If you're clicking on this, that's probably your question, and hopefully I can help answer that today. My name is Pat. I'm a writer, producer, and mixer here in Nashville, Tennessee, and normally on this channel I do a couple different things. I'm trying out some video essay style things. I've done some song surgery breakdowns where I go through songs that I've worked on, talk about those. A couple of like production tutorial things. Just kind of feeling it out. If you're new here, would appreciate the like, comment, subscribe. Gonna keep growing the channel. Would love feedback. But today, we are talking about how independent producers and artists make money. Short answer, they don't. All right, video over. No, just kidding, man. It's complicated and nuanced. If you're a seasoned producer who's already working with clients, you probably don't need this video. If you're new and you're not taking clients, this is still valuable information to prepare yourself with. If you're somebody in the middle, you're working with people, maybe you're not signed, maybe you don't have a deal, kind of like me. This is something that you should know about, and it's something that you should honestly educate your clients on to help build value and trust between the two of you. Let's get right into it, though. So, whoops, we gotta click into the video here. There's Danny DeVito. What's up? All right, so let's talk about the money of a song. How does it make money? Short version is it doesn't. No. So a song can be considered two things: an intellectual work, which would be the publishing, and then the product that you listen to on your streaming platform, which is the master or a CD, whatever, if you're one of those people. So publishing is literally the music, the words, the melody. It is the intellectual composition of the song. It's something that is registered with a PRO, which we'll talk about briefly later. And then the master is literally just the done song once it's out into the world. Those two things make money in different ways. For example, if a song is streamed, and just for simple math, it earns $1, about 30 cents of the dollar earned would be from the publishing, and about 70 cents would be from the master. Okay? Publishing splits. Let's talk about publishing first. This is separate from production entirely. This is purely the generation of the work of art. If you wrote music in a song, if you programmed a beat, if you wrote chords, if you wrote any sort of melodic information on the music side of things, you are a writer. If you wrote words, lyrics, you are a writer. If you wrote the melody, you are a writer on a song. This is something that can get kind of complicated in bands. It can get complicated in writing rooms depending on what city that you're in. But in my humble opinion, if you contributed to the creation of the song in any way, and that could be something as simple as you were in the room and you were just jamming on your guitar, maybe you wrote some of the chords, maybe it got changed, maybe it didn't. You facilitated the creation of the song. In my opinion, you are a writer. Splits are done differently in different towns, and this is in the U.S. I don't know how it works in Europe. I don't know how it works in England, but in Nashville, for example, if me and two other writers, maybe one's an artist, maybe one's a top liner, and myself write a song. It doesn't matter if I write a single word in that song. It doesn't matter if the top liner writes a single word in that song. It doesn't matter. If you were in the room when the song is made, you are an equal share in the creation of the song. In different cities, it might be different. I don't know how it works in New York. I know in LA they get very like, well, you only wrote 2 words in the verse, and then you wrote a lyric in the chorus. And it gets very, very like min-maxy and like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then if you're in Atlanta, it's another totally different thing. Like if you're in a rap session and you're the beat maker and then the artist brings a bunch of his homies and maybe they write a couple words, maybe they don't. Now they're writers on the song too. It's all very convoluted. It's very much the Wild West. It can really depend on where you are, the people that you're with, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I always think that the Nashville system is the most simple. You're there, you're a part of the right, you get an equal split. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It takes a lot of the politicking out of it. But, this is where people can get, once we get into the real money of music, this is where people can get bullied. But at its core, if you're a producer, if you're an artist, if you're a top liner, if you were in the room when a song is made, whether it's for an independent artist, whether it's for a signed artist or whatever, you were a writer on that song, and somebody needs to make sure that the song is registered with a PRO, and you are on that. Whether the song makes no money or not, get in the habit. Just do it. Streaming economics. I'm not going to talk about CD sales and vinyl and any of that because it's just, yes, it exists, but barely, and it's not worth talking about. It's 2025. We're going to talk about streaming. So, to start, we were talking about publishing before. I'm going to talk about master first. This is the song on the streaming platform being played. If a song hits, again, for a relatively simple math, 1 million streams, that will pay the master owner, or 100% of the master, $3,000 to $4,000. This will depend on if it's all on Spotify, if it's on Tidal, if it's on Apple Music. The point is, it's not a lot of money, first of all. And second of all, is it's to the master owner or owners, okay? If you, the producer, own 25% of the master, and that song, for easy math, streamed 1 million, you would make $750 to $1,000. This would be paid out by the distribution company. For independent artists, most likely that's going to be like a DistroKid or something along those lines. There are other ones. I'm not talking about those today. The point is that they facilitate the song going to streaming, and then based on how much it streams, they will pay out that much money to people who own the master. Publishing, much smaller numbers here when it comes to streaming. I think these are things that are being kind of handled on the legal side by like NSAI and other organizations that are lobbying for publishing payouts to be different. Or even for writers to be getting master points, which is something we could riff on a little bit later. But that would only pay $300 to $750 on 1 million streams. Not a lot. That's why being a writer in today's, like a pure writer in music right now is a tough thing unless you're getting really big cuts because the money's just, it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't add up. And this is why publishers are acting more like labels now. But I digress. Radio would be something totally different. That's where publishing would really become a big deal. If you got 1,000 spins on like a small radio market, you would make $500 to $2,000 roughly on the publishing side of things. That would, of course, be divided between artists and their publishers, et cetera, et cetera. If you were in a large market, you would make more. But radio is rare. We're mostly going to be focusing on streaming here. So, you're a producer. We've gone over the basics of master, of publishing, what those two things are, why they're important, how much they pay. Not a lot. Oops. But these are still things to get in the habit of learning, knowing, and doing. Structuring your deals by client type. As a independent producer, you might be dealing with bands. You might be dealing with solo artists. They might have a different amount of money to pay you depending on where they're at in their career. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You can hybrid these things. But let's say, for example, my general philosophy is when I have a client that I know has budget, and I'm not like stalking these people, you know what I mean? I'm vetting my clients. We're talking about money immediately, which is a quick side note. This is educational to learn about publishing and master and how to give yourself equity in songs. But talking about money is a tough thing to do, and I like to get it out of the way immediately. Just get the bullshit out of the way so that you guys can have fun and make music. You know what I mean? I think that's a really important lesson to learn. I've been a freelancer most of my life at this point, my adult life. I've never had an office job. I've been a freelancer the entire time. So talking about money is not difficult for me. If you're somebody who maybe worked a job and now you're getting into charging clients, it's a tough thing. It's uncomfortable. You're attaching your value and your time to a dollar number. That's icky. It's gross. You're having to ask people to pay you. Learn to get comfortable with it. Educate yourself on how the music makes money and advocate for yourself. So, back to this. Budgeted clients. People that have money. Maybe this is a band that tours. Maybe they do wedding gigs. Maybe they do bar gigs. Maybe it's an artist that does the same thing. If you're in Nashville, maybe they play on Broadway. They have an income. They have budget set aside to make music. In these cases, you're probably going to want to charge whatever your rate is. That rate will be determined by a number of things, how in demand you are, your facilities, what your production process entails. Are you paying players, et cetera, et cetera? That's for you to figure out. I'm not here to figure that out for you. But in that case, you might charge them either 100% entirely, just a professional fee, and you may not take any master. Or maybe you do. Maybe you ask for a small backend. I always advocate that the producer asks for a little bit of the master because I'm very biased, but producers are very important in creating the sonic identity of artists and bands. Whether you're an overproducer, whether you're a Max Martin style producer, whether you're a Rick Rubin style producer, if you do like Zach Bryan style productions, those are all still aesthetic choices that make the music more palatable for the listener. You are owed, in my opinion, a little bit of the back end of that. You're part of that process. You can probably make a strong case in those situations too for budgeted clients where if you were a co-writer, you were even more involved in the song. So you have an even stronger case to ask for backend. In my experience, people don't usually push back too hard here. Some might, you know what I mean? Because they're struggling too, but you do bring value to the table as a producer, never forget it. And they should know that too. So then there's another side of it though. There are going to be clients, there are going to be people that don't have budget. They might be a young solo artist, somebody coming out of school. Maybe they're, in their late teens, their early 20s. They're just kind of getting their feet wet. They're just getting it figured it out. Nice. They're just now figuring it out. And they might want to work with you, but they might be scared. They might know that they can't afford your usual rate. These are instances where it makes sense, where you can offer either a lower fee or no fee and do a full master split or do a large chunk of the master so that their cash buy-in is lower, but you have a lot of equity in the song, and it kind of creates a good relationship for the two of you, and it's more collaborative. But when determining whether or not to do this, it's tough, man. It's really a roll of the dice because you're giving up your time, and you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to get 50% of the master, but as we saw a few slides ago, 1 million streams is not a lot of money. And if this is a baby artist, they're probably not even going to be hitting that. So you've got to be in it for the long haul to develop this artist from the ground up. This is a special case thing. I wouldn't advocate that you do this with everybody. If you're going to pull the trigger with like an artist like this, then you've got to see that they have a plan. That they're active on social media. They have a well-curated image. They're good on camera. They're affable. They have people that like their music. Is their music good? Is another question. You know what I mean? This is for you to figure out and determine whether or not you want to do it, but it is an option. Now, for artists talking about this stuff, if you are perhaps, the aforementioned young, starving artist with no money, you do have options. One, work your fucking ass off and pray to the gods, which we're all doing. But we talked about the equity split with a producer. First, the question that you should ask yourself is, why would a producer want to do that with you? Do you have a plan? Do you have a social media team? Do you have a manager? Do you have connections of any kind? What is your roadmap? If you don't have a roadmap and you just go, hey man, I've got this cool new song, want to split the master? They're probably not going to take it. But if you're like, hey, I'm in this band, or I'm playing these gigs, I have this much money, I'm doing this, I meet this person, I'm doing this many social media shoots, I'm doing shorts, this is my content, et cetera, then it's a little different. You might have a little bit of, if you have a cool sound and a good relationship with this person, then they might be more enticed by that. Another thing to consider as a young artist, and now this is a tough one, but investors do exist in the music world, outside of labels. I won't name names because then I'll get crucified, but there are a number of artists, here in Nashville in particular, that I can think of that come to mind that the start of their career was funded entirely by investors before they even got label deals. These do exist. You're most likely to meet somebody like this playing shows. There are people that will come to artist showcases, to writers' rounds. They'll come around town here. I'm sure it happens in other cities too, and they might see you and they might think, wow, this person's got it. I want to talk to them about investing in their future. If that happens, you're going to want to find a manager immediately, an accountant, et cetera, but those things do exist. It's rare, it's hard to pull off, but it's doable. If you can't pull it off, that's, there's always like fucking, I don't know, if you're hot, you could do OnlyFans or something like that, or you can do DoorDash, which is less lucrative than OnlyFans, but it's a grind, man. But if you're a young artist and you want to work with a producer and you can't afford their rate, come up with a plan and see, if someone wants to play ball. So let's just wrap it all up. This is pretty short. I'm not doing a ton of detail here. Leave a comment below if you want to talk about a few more of these things or explore them further. But to me, this is a really important thing for young producers and artists to know. For a producer, you should know this, and you should educate your clients about this. These are things you should talk about early, talk about often. It's going to, in my experience, talking about this with my artists has only deepened our relationship and deepened their trust in me because I'm telling them how the music makes money. So that later on down the line, let's say they leave me. Let's say we don't work together anymore. When they go into a meeting, they're going to know all of this. They're going to feel more equipped to navigate this and more protected. So it's a good thing to do. And as a producer, I think this is protecting yourself to a degree, because if you do work with an artist and the song, you're working with them on a low budget and the song blows up, you bring real value to the process of getting music out into the world. Anybody with half a brain knows that, and you should have some equity in that. I think it's only fair. We're not working on recording budgets from the 80s and the 70s, man. We're working on fractions of that. Fractions of that in some cases. So, yeah, you should get some equity in what's going on here. You're enabling the artist to live their dream, creating a sonic identity for them. You should have equity. What that equity looks like will depend on what they can pay you up front and what's comfortable for everybody, but always advocate for yourself and protect yourself. Agreements. I would get this stuff in writing, have texts, have emails. Contracts are tough, man. I know people who swear by them and they do production agreements. I know people who don't. For me, especially when you're working with an independent artist and you're an independent producer, the stakes are so low. I don't know if a contract really makes sense. I mean, you can do like a very low weight sort of production agreement thing, like artist agrees to pay producer this with this much equity, et cetera, and just kind of have something loose in writing. That can be smart, but a young baby artist and you throw a production agreement at them. I mean, to me, it's scary. And as an artist, if someone throws a production deal towards you, do not fucking sign a production deal ever. Ever. Production agreement, different. If they want to, hey, I just want to get it in writing that you're going to pay me this much and then I'm going to own this much of the master, that's fine. If somebody offers you a production deal in 2025 where they lock you into X amount of songs for X amount of money, don't do that. I have known way too many artists in town who have done that with producers, and essentially all that happens is what always happens. Someone doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, and the artist has had a bunch of fucking money, and they can't work with other producers, and they're locked in, and they can't release music, and the producer's dragging their feet. It's stupid. The only person who wins in that situation is the producer. Artist, never sign that. You got to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but you do have to protect yourself. So, master splits. Ask for them, talk about them, do them. I hope this helped kind of shed a little bit of light on what they look like and how they work. But this isn't something that a lot of people learn when they're getting into the game. And those little chunks of master ownership, they can add up to a little bit of passive income over time as songs do stream well. So it's good for you. It's good for your artists. It's good for everybody to know about this. I'm going to sign off here, and I'll see you on the next one next week. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing this video essay style format or if I'm going to go back to song surgery. Would appreciate any feedback in the comments below. I'll see you later. Love yourself. Love, what's my sign off? Yeah. Love yourself. Love your friends. Keep making good music. All right.